The title Beyond Politics is chosen specifically to say there are some things that are simply beyond political systems' ability to do very well. And so the roots of government failure is just following on that notion that governments don't handle information very well, for example. So if you see a problem, and most people immediately say, well, there ought to be a law, without stopping to say, well, how would that law be carried out? How would the bureaucrats gain more information than we have as regular people to be able to know how to fix it? And so one basic government failure is the inability to process information. And it's not that people don't try, it's not that they don't have good computers, it's that it's impossible to gain all the information you need in order to intervene in a market in ways that actually make things better. Another root of government failure is simply that politicians don't necessarily act in the public interest. I say that having spent 10 years in city government, 6 years on a city council, 4 years as mayor, and watching how the incentives of office affect your decision-making is disturbing to me. I mean, my model, the public choice model says that people in all walks of life are going to act in their self-interest first. And it's disturbing to see that model actually work almost all the time. And by self-interest in terms of politicians, it's generally in terms of promoting an ideology, but in order to promote an ideology, you have to be reelected. So in order to be reelected, you have to do things that are probably not good policy, but make good politics. So those are two quick examples. One of the first things to remember is that poverty is the normal condition of mankind. And so when people say, well, why isn't everybody rich? We might be saying, why isn't everybody poor? And figuring out an answer to that, because you look through all of human history and poverty was what humankind was mired in. And so looking at what brings people out of poverty, it turns out, I think the evidence is absolutely clear. It's markets. Allowing people to, as Adam Smith said, truck and barter with each other and not having governments interfere with that. And the examples of government interfering today with people trying to lift themselves out of poverty are, some of them are trivial, some of them are irritating, some of them are just really sad. And again, it's kind of non-intuitive, but government poverty programs in general fail to create incentives and opportunities that people can take advantage of. During the current recession, I've had again, this is just anecdotal, but it fits perfectly with the models. I've had conversations with people who own businesses, and as they've cut back employees, they obviously well, they face two problems. One is the minimum wage has just gone up, and the other is they're in a recession. Mm-hmm. And they can't afford to hire those people, and so they find other ways of doing what they were doing before, and they don't have any intention currently of rehiring low-skilled labor at the price that they have to pay for them.
Well, in the past, employers could adjust to that by cutting fringes, like health care or helping to pay for uniforms or additional training, on-the-job training. But with current policy looming on the horizon of Obamacare, that will go out the window.
Yeah, and you can see why so many businesses are already asking for waivers from Obamacare.
Your book weaves together a number of different sub-disciplines for studying public policy. You discuss public choice, Austrian or market process economics, and new institutional economics. What do you think are the main contributions of each of those fields to a better understanding of public policy?
Well, the book was written to be a primer on public choice. So and public choice is the analyzing markets, analyzing government using the normal tools that economists use, their assumptions about human nature, about what motivates us, et cetera. So the public choice part, I think, is to say that there are we should expect lots of problems in using government, and we should certainly reduce our vision of what governments can do and recognize there's a whole bunch that's beyond politics. The Austrian contributions, I think, are that there is no real equilibrium in the world, that everything is always in flux, that politicians act as entrepreneurs every bit as much as private businessmen act as entrepreneurs, and so we need to look at the effects of that entrepreneurship. And the new institutional economics simply says institutions matter, and which is what Madison was saying in Federalist 51 when he said that if men were angels, we wouldn't need a government, or if men were governed by angels, everything would be fine. But government isn't run by angels, and the rest of us aren't angels either. So we have to design an institution that takes those kinds of things into account.
Well, you conclude the book by offering guidelines to improve public policy and create a climate for liberty. What would you say would be the most important reforms for fostering those goals of liberty, prosperity, and social harmony?
I think the biggest, and this is easy to say and really hard to do, which is to actually try markets. We put so many constraints around markets that we don't allow them to really function as efficiently as they could. And also, instead of seeing a problem and saying, oh, government's got to fix that, relying on people's ingenuity and their ability to work things out among themselves, assuming that you can impose a solution rather than have one emerge. And I think that's the biggest issue. And having spent 10 years in city government and being involved in the League of Cities and Towns in the state of Utah, that's really hard for people to do, because once you get elected, you think you know something. It's really odd, but you're elected and wow, you're suddenly smarter than you were the day before, and you know what things ought to be done. It really is this amazing arrogance that those of us who are elected develop, and it's one of the reasons I didn't run for re-election as mayor, is because I was disturbed at the arrogance I was developing. And so if you actually think that you have some sort of mandate, or that you are smarter, or that you can figure things out, then you're not likely to rely on markets. You're likely to say, I have a policy idea. Let's do this policy. Let's do that policy. When in fact, often the best thing to do is back away rather than to move forward.